Live from Derbyshire, this is The Sunday Lunch Show with Brent Poland. And you are listening live.
Good morning and a Merry Christmas to you, or maybe not, depending on your point of view, because some of us are finished and some of us are not.
I'm finished.
Thank you for that, and I'm not. So I might be a bit of a Grinch, and Adam might be Father Christmas today. But we're going to look at, should we have fun lessons before Christmas, or should we not? And it seems that we have a bit of a split on this, because you'll join us, we'll talk it out and see where you sit.
Talk Radio, and you are listening live. Tune in live at ttradio.org or join in the conversation by downloading the Podbean app and following Teachers Talk Radio. Hashtag TT Radio.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here?
So, you're wondering why you've heard a bit of Gladiator. Well, at this time of the year, I turn into Russell Crowe in Gladiator. Yeah, I am that guy. The kids will walk into my classroom and they will say the immortal words, which they regret. Sir, can we do something fun today? Of which I turn into Russell Crowe in Gladiator, one of my favourite movies, by the way. Historically, terribly incorrect in some things, but well, entertainment value, fantastic. I worked at cinema actually when it came out. I used to go in and watch the first 20 minutes just for the cinematic value.
Yeah, it's amazing film.
Amazing film. You know, and Russell Crowe is fantastic in it. But when the kids walk into my class, and they do, and they go, Sir, can we do something fun today? My brain, as it is, in Russell Crowe mode, is thinking, what? What are you inferring? Are you saying that every other time of the year I'm AKA boring? Are you saying that my lessons are terrible? And I take it a bit personally. It's like, hold on a second here. I work hard. I work hard to entertain you. And that's why I draw the reference to that scene from Gladiator where he's like, are you not entertained? Am I not here to entertain you? What's the whole purpose? What am I? I'm some sort of comedian on stage? I'm a serious educational professional, and the children just want me to be, what, Blockbuster Video? And I'm like, what's going on here? And I know what usually happens is there are some of my colleagues, and I love them to bits. I am their union representative. I will defend them to the hilt, who've been watching We Don't Talk About Bruno, no, or they'll walk in going, let it go, let it go. And I'm like, what is going on? There's Christmas Carol in the English department, Boy in a Striped Pajamas in the RE department. And they come into me and they go, Sir, can you do something fun with us? And I'm like, what? And it absolutely grinds my gears. And I know it's not going to make me universally popular. I'm on the 47% that said we should teach till the end. And 52% in our poll that we put out 3 days ago said that we should do fun lessons, which is a bit like Brexit all over again.
Yeah,
we've got a 52-48 split here of teachers who, AKA, want to do fun lessons or, let's teach to the end. So it's an interesting topic to discuss. Yeah. So we'll see what comes out of it. But
I just wonder if we can link that to maybe it's 52% of Brexit voters had fun lessons in school.
Should we do a demographic profile of the teacher who actually says do fun lessons?
Yeah. So I wonder where that comes from then. The fun lesson, is it from primary school, and then is it kind of then an expectation of when people get to secondary school that there's a fun lesson? I mean, again, it's always nostalgic looking back at your time at school, but I do remember almost from about mid-December doing very little at school. We had kind of the fun lesson. The big TV came out. We watched films. We played games. I remember a couple of lessons where it was just board games for a week, almost like a solid week. You went right through.
Well, maybe the last week, maybe the last lesson. It all depends on the teacher. It all depends on what teacher it was. But some teachers were, teach the. I remember my French teacher, Miss McGarry, had her for 5 years. The woman would be acetate. She would just write on acetates.
Yeah.
And we'd be doing French lessons. Of course, she'd put a French flavour on Christmas. So it'd be Joyeux Noël and all that. We would have French in Christmas. An Irish teacher, definitely. With the Gaelic teacher, that was Irish and Gaelic and Christmas, and we used to get all that. And certainly some teachers would take the opportunity, I suppose like myself now, to use the supposed slack time to do something they might not have normally did. like, geography teacher would be like David Attenborough, which I would enjoy. And others, it would be the teacher would just appear for a half an hour, and you're thinking, and we're just sitting there by ourselves doing, well, okay, what are we doing today? Obviously, completely, absolutely, but it all depended on which teacher. I do remember, yes, the big giant television being wheeled in, and of which it all depended again on the teacher's video collection. They'd go into their store cupboard, and yes, English teacher would bring out Jane Eyre, the black and white version of Jane Eyre, which was not very exciting. I would say that was fun. But it's funny that I remember those actual lessons. Even now, recalling them 30 odd years later, I can still remember that slack time. And I can still remember some of the stuff. So I suppose because it is different, it is something that sticks out. But are we missing? Here's the thing, and I'll give the argument against having the full lessons, because we are serious academic professionals. We have only so much curriculum time to teach, especially in my subject. I'm always crying foul of every inset day that I lose curriculum time. And I often think, I've got 7,000 years of history I want to teach and only a couple of hundred hours to do it in over 5 years. And I think, well, wow, I would happily, teach more. And that's me. I'm just a teachaholic. My best friend said that at my wedding. He says the worst part of it traveling around the world with me was he got a geography and history lesson. Even if he didn't ask for it, I can't help myself. I do have my name is Brent Poland. I'm a teachaholic. I first diagnosed myself as a teachaholic a long time ago.
What would you go to, like, instead of AA? Would you go to
TT? Teachers Anonymous.
TA.
Teachers Talk Anonymous, because I've always been told that I never miss the opportunity. I just can't help myself. I'm there to teach.
Yeah.
I'm there to teach, and that's my job, and that's what I like doing, and I get a great joy out of it. And it's again like, okay, I'm going to make a rod for my own back, and probably people are going to hate me. But it's like the inset days.
Play a drum roll?
Yeah, no. It's like the inset days or disruption days. During COVID, it was my worst nightmare. I want to be in the classroom. I'm an actor. Put me on stage. I want my classroom. I want to be in the classroom. I want to teach kids. I want to use the opportunity to educate them. But flipping it the other side, I get this time of the year we're knackered. I get that the kids are knackered, and I get that is it right to turn around and push too far? I.e., is it reached that point where they're tired, you're tired? Is it time just to relax a little bit? And that maybe, that's the right thing to do from a mental health point of view, from a socialization point of view. My take is...
There's a cognitive reason as well, of letting the brain settle. I mean, there is that thing about kind of you just constantly kind of, overloading with new information, new content all the time. The brain needs time to process it, and we know that some of our students aren't great at sleeping and getting rest, and they've got, especially sixth formers, then go on to work, do jobs and that stuff. So maybe there is a time there. One of the great lessons I've done this week, actually, that I've really enjoyed we had half an hour. It just so happened that we had half an hour on our last lesson, and in one of the books, we literally just went into silence and we just did a reflection, half an hour, and the students just sat down and just looked through the book and picked out 3 or 4 kind of consistent points that went well during this term, and then we didn't do even better if or negative points. We just then said targets. What would you like to achieve in the first half term back, based on the practice that you've done already? So for me, with A-level business, unfortunately, it's kind of the long mark answer questions is the king. Well,
you got to be business with business.
But a lot of it, unfortunately, for businesses is about technique, about exam technique, and it's getting that exam technique, particularly around kind of analysis and evaluative skills, gets you the marks. Unfortunately, that's just the game. You can be. We've had pupils actually in the past who have been running their family businesses. So their business acumen and knowledge is superb.
Real world.
But actually they haven't got very good grades in the A-level because they haven't ticked the box with the structure of the exam question. Anyway, that's probably another show, just in that, because it just shows you kind of, you can be very knowledgeable actually about a very vocational subject and not get a qualification. But I think that's probably a show for another day. But my point is that looking back and just reflecting through, is that everybody has done something very, very well. and we always overload the well points to the target. So I always do make sure there's more positives than there is targets. So and also narrowing those targets down allows people to actually, when they come back, just to make a kind of clear focus. But it's written down, it's kind of documented, it's almost diarised. This is where I was, and I thought that was a really nice end of professional way.
Yeah.
It was calm, it was chilled. We did a kind of quick business style end of year Kahoot style YouTube quiz at the end, just to get that little bit of a kind of Christmas.
So you got what you needed to get done.
But we had that moment of clarity, of calmness, reflection, and it'll be really interesting to see what that group does with that when they come back, actually, because there sometimes isn't that time. We talk about kind of, we go all the time, content retrieval, flip this, do this, and actually what we need to do, we sit down and just spend 15, 20 minutes. We do it as professionals, don't we?
Yeah.
We have those moments where we sit down, look at our objectives, look at our own practice, but when do we ever do that with children? So maybe that's the opportunity. This, you want to call it Slack time. I call it, for me, was, well, do I want to start another topic on the last lesson?
No,
I definitely don't want to do that. So I've now got this kind of lesson period.
So there's a natural jump
there was
off
a natural finish, because they were kind of finishing something off that lesson.
Do you think that some teachers then, what they do is, do you think they buy themselves that little bit of time up? I'm going to give the kids something to do, so it gives me that time to get all my stuff done, so that over Christmas I start the new term. Is it the kind of like claw back a bit of time? Kids are, we're not going to do much learning now because they're not in the Goldilocks period. They're not in the porridge is not the right temperature. The Goldilocks period of learning is gone. And that you've got this last week of term where the kids are tired maybe, and you're tired. So maybe is it time for them to relax a little bit, but time for you to get caught up on your admin, your bureaucracy, your marking, your books, so that you don't have, because one of the things that always annoys me with half terms is you always have the niggle of, if I can get this stuff done before half term, I can then enjoy my half term without, that, because we all do it. Who does not take work home? I used to be terrible for it back in my early days. I used to take a rucksack back over to Ireland to visit my folks and spend Christmas with my folks. And in the bottom of my rucksack would be a bucket full of marking. And Ryanair, I was paying Ryanair. Sorry, a carrier of Ryanair, EasyJet, Flybe, I'm mentioning them all.
An Irish airline. We're not
non-branded airline. And I was paying them for the privilege of taking marking on a trip, spin back. And even my dad turned around and says, "Son, you going to do that work?" And I'm like, "No." And funny, I remember actually doing the masters one year where I did bring some of our masters work back, and I did sit in my parents' living room. And even my parents were like, "Look, son, put that down. Well, it's Christmas. Enjoy yourself." And I thought to myself, I had got this done a little earlier. So there is that maybe clawback time and buyback time of, I need to get this done. And I've got my family, because we're not an exhaustible resource. We get tired too. We want that period to recharge our batteries, don't we?
Are you, this is a question maybe for other people as well, but are you taking stuff home because you feel that there's an expectation to do that rather than an actual practical reason for doing it? I think sometimes in the profession we whip ourselves up of, we can't have any downtime. We shouldn't be having downtime. It's not acceptable to have downtime because in the day there isn't.
Well, I do work over Christmas. Therefore, are you asking me, am I going to do work over the Christmas holidays?
What I'm asking you is the work that you're doing actually required?
No.
Or is it just making you feel better? It's like a psychological thing of, well, I feel like I should be doing something.
I think we all have this little thing in the back of our heads, some teachers, that we have to, there has to be these things to be done. We're never ahead. You are never, ever in this job. You're never clearing the decks. You're never ahead of yourself. You're always playing catch up. But
are you ever behind? I mean, that's the other thing as well. You could argue
of course you are. You're always behind. That's the whole point of it. You're always constantly playing catch up. But it's a question of what's livable. And it's a question of what comes back to haunt you. The things that you get into trouble for, the things that you haven't done, the admin, the bureaucracy. And this is where I think some teachers' mental health is suffering, because we're in becoming a threat-focused occupation that we're constantly just churning over. And maybe, maybe my let's do a fun lessons, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I should say down tools and say, right, there, here you go, here's an historical documentary, and then I get all my stuff done. But I always it's terrible for me. I do take work home. And I do have a look over Christmas holidays, at one or two little things, but it's preparation and stuff. But then maybe that's bad for me. I should probably clear the decks and not have that. But it's the same as the summer holidays. Tell me the teacher that doesn't do a week or two over the summer holidays.
Yeah.
We do it to ourselves, but we do it ourselves because we're professionals. And this is what people always turn around and say, "Oh, you get 14 weeks, 13 weeks holidays in the year." I don't think the majority of us don't, because we are always on the lookout for resources. We're always doing stuff.
And I think that's the thing, because I've tried to explain this to my wife about kind of the profession, and it is constant, because you're constantly, if you, as you said, you've gone on a trip with your mates, and you're then giving a walking, talking geography. If you are into your subject, which I think if you're now, like we are, in your 40s in education, you're into your subject, aren't
it's in your DNA.
It's kind of, you can cut me through now.
It's who you are. It's what you are.
So therefore, when I see something, I'm immediately assessing that source to see whether it fits. It's worth telling people. Is it a starter? Is it something I can set as a reading task? Is there something in that that's going to allow me to get that breakthrough in that bit of like nasty content that's quite hard to kind of understand, especially in my subject, especially when I'm looking at something like, I don't know, supply and demand or something, or price elasticity of demand, like really dull areas. If you just teach from the textbook, but actually if you do supply and demand, and then you're looking at a news article from the house market or the current inflationary
you'll
issue,
save it, won't you?
It's kind of logged, and this is the bit that's really hard to kind of pin down when people say, "Oh, you got loads of holiday," but actually in that holiday, that is still happening. So it's not like when I had previous jobs, when I was on holiday, I was on holiday.
You don't as a teacher.
Yeah. I before, when I kind of worked in banks, I didn't go on holiday. When I went to holiday, I wasn't reading up on the latest interest rates.
The previous couple of Christmases, this is probably the first Christmas I think that we, as a professional body, have had something not hanging over us. And as I say that, actually we do, because industrial action will probably be happening. If the other previous years we've had, the COVID's in and out, COVID, and we had the year where, January, we were then going to be, vaccinating kids, or we're going to be testing kids, and then we were in for a day and then not in. And that, I resented that, because that was so intrusive over the whole Christmas. That completely dominated my Christmas to a point, because as a union rep, I was worried about my colleagues. But it's interesting, and again, we'll come on to this later on. I don't forget about the responsibilities I have because I have a holiday. I don't forget about some of the children in my care. And I think some of us are like that. We go into this because we really care about what we do, and we care about the people that we have responsibility for. So I do, and I will say there's a part of my brain worries about the children over Christmas, worries about the families, worries about things that are happening, worries about coming back. I mean, tell me the member of staff that doesn't, the night before going back to school, have the dreads. And one of my head teachers, brilliant. She was brilliant for that. She used to send the email out just the day before, going, "You'll be okay. You'll be absolutely fine," and making a joke out of, first days. And the thing of it is, that first day, dread of the first day back, is pretty hard, isn't it, to get your head around that? Well, okay, we're going back, and what you're going back into. But equally, as soon as I walk in that door and I teach my first lesson, it's like riding a bike. It's back. It's the same as the 6 weeks holidays was worse for that, isn't it? Because the 6 weeks, the 6 week summer holidays, you get out of practice, and that first lesson is kind of like, okay, I'm back in the classroom, and even your voice. I've noticed things like your voice goes a little bit over that period of time. But going back to the Christmas thing, I worry that if we do the fun thing too often, we actually do a disservice to the job that we do the rest of the year. And it filters into some of my niggles about attendance, that you get some criticism from some parents saying, "Oh, well, the last week of school's nothing anyway, I'm taking my child out." And what happens with that is, okay, that's fair enough. They're not going to lose out on a huge amount in the last week of term. But what it does is, it opens the door to the first week of term. And I've noticed a massive change in the last couple of years about the number of holidays that children have, because parents then turn around and say, "Well, you don't do much in the first week of term." And it is a little bit of, we have to be careful of becoming the glorified child minders that we rejected during COVID, because we're not there. I'm not there to be a DVD player. They get enough of that during the holidays. So my take in it is that I don't mind people having fun lessons, but my version of fun lessons might be different to other person's version of fun lessons. My fun lesson is something educational. It's still, for me, there has to be something educational in what we do, because that's our purpose. That's my function. I often say that to kids, what's my job? Teacher, what's your job? And they look at me funny and they go, what job? And I says, you have a job at the moment. Your occupation. What do you put as your occupation? And I get this bewildering look back from the kids. It says, what's your designation in society? How would I describe you? Yes, you're a child, but what's your job? What's your function? What do you do? And they look and go, oh, I'm a student. Oh, do you study? Do you actually study? If you're a student, how much studying do you actually do? I'm a teacher. How much teacher? Do you think I'm a good teacher? And I flip it on them. I go, do you think I'm a good teacher? Do you think I teach? Do you think I teach all the time? Even when I'm not meant to be teaching, I will teach. That's what I am. If you're a student, study. So I think we have to never lose sight of the fact that as long as the fun stuff can be fun stuff, but for me, there has to be some rationale, educational value to what you do. So I'll always store up my year 11s, for instance, they're starting a new topic. They're starting 9/11 and the war in Afghanistan, which is a very unusual historical topic to teach. I've timed it that I know over the Christmas holidays that they'll have access to Netflix and documentaries. So I've given them a documentary list, including the one released last year with George Bush. And I've given them a task to do over Christmas. And again, this is controversial because some people say, leave the kids over Christmas, don't set them. That's another topic. Do you actually say to the kids, don't waste that time?
Yeah.
Do you say to them, you use your Christmas holidays? Do we say to the children, you switch off and do no work? Or do you say, look, guys, you've got a couple of days here where instead of being on your Xboxes, instead of wasting the time watching endless DVDs, could they be doing something educational? So there's an argument not for and against that. Don't waste the time. Get caught up. But for me, I'm giving them some light viewing, like The Kite Runner and something connected to 9/11, a couple of documentaries that they might be interested in watch. But I can do that because they've chosen my subject and I know they're intrinsically motivated to do it. But I've asked them a simple task when they get together with their family, ask their parents where they were when the Twin Towers came down.
Yeah.
And what I'm doing there is I'm saying, right, okay, you and your parents can have a conversation about it. I want to involve your parents in your education. And equally, if it's their choice, I'm giving them the options. It's not a requirement. I'm saying, look, if you have got some time over the Christmas holidays and you want to look at something interesting, then this is the educational value in it. So therefore, I'm still kind of reaching out to get them to take the advantage of that time. Or am I wrong in doing that? That's something I'd like to open up to the floor. Am I wrong in doing that? Should I just let them switch completely off, or am I just taking the opportunity of the time and the resources they have to keep them interested and to focus them? And I don't know. I think I'm doing the right thing on that because I did it last year and the kids came back and said, "What's this documentary? I thought, what's that documentary?" Because some of them get very bored of it. We saw it during COVID. They just vegged. They just basically. We found a lot of kids with a lot of free time just got out of habits of any sort of learning whatsoever. So go back to the fun lesson thing. I'm okay with a fun lesson being a fun lesson as long as there's an educational value and there's some rationale behind it, rather than just like those teachers when I was at school that just said, walked out of the classroom, left us for half an hour and we just sort ourselves out. Versus those that said, here's a David Attenborough, thing, this is what we're studying, and here's something I would like to show you, but we don't have the time to normally show you, but I'm going to take the opportunity to do something slightly different. So for me, it's still about, it's a difference between a parent who just gives a child an iPad and unsupervises the child with an iPad for hours on end, versus the parent who gives the child an iPad and says, okay, here's something like Minecraft, and sits with the child and takes them through something like Minecraft.
Yeah.
Because then, the child is doing something fun.
Interacting as well.
But it's interacting.
Yeah.
And you think about that as important as well. I think about doing quizzes. If you're going to do a quiz, do the quiz with the kids. If you're going to do something fun, do it with the kids.
Yeah.
I think that's the difference. If you're going to have the fun lessons, you participate, you facilitate, you take part, you enjoy the fun lessons because you're doing the fun lesson with the young people, as opposed to, all right, what are we doing today? We're going to watch a DVD. The kids sit down, they stick a DVD on, and the member of staff is sitting marking books. I don't agree with that.
No.
But I know and I understand why people do that, because they're clearing the decks and getting their headspace right because they want to have a break. So I'm caught at 50-50, and funny, that's where I think a lot of people
that's
are.
where it was, I think so. There's a couple of things there. We're going to, before we go to the news, there's a couple of things then for a call-in. What have you done over the last week? Have you decided on fun, or have you just literally carried on with your normal lessons as normal? Or maybe look back at your own school life and what happened when you were at school, and what types of fun lessons did you have? When I say fun, I'm putting inverted commas there. Or did your teacher kind of plug away to the end? Some students just haven't come in for the last week at all. I know some parents, again, and I always agree that it's their prerogative to, in some sense, want to have that family time, and the cost of the holidays is sometimes problematic. So they use the last week as a way to get a cheaper break. So that there's that.
Well, there is that debate of,
there's always that debate.
That debate of where is education, what's the value of education, and again, if a child has got brilliant attendance and that parent is doing something with that child, which is affirming, and that for me is important. But if they're taking their child out to go on a shopping trip, well, sorry, that's not right. But if you're taking a child, a colleague of mine's going to New Zealand, the family in New Zealand, so they're taking the last couple of days.
Yeah.
Fully support that. I'd happily cover those lessons to allow that person, because that's something extremely important. You don't mind if it's something important, or there's something that is of a value. And you get that argument sometimes where the parent says, my child's going on, we need a holiday, we need a break. Fine. But don't do that if your child's on 85% attendance. Don't do that when your child's on 90% attendance.
Yeah.
And don't do that at the Goldilocks period of time when your child needs to be in school. But it is Pandora's box. It's like everything else. I often think sometimes the more you relax a little bit, the more the children expect. So I never like when they walk in, going back to the gladiator thing, I will do the fun lesson on my terms. I don't like it when children go, can we play this music? Can we play that music? They get very selfish like that. They want what they want. I've done that before where it's like, okay, can we put some music on? And the kids are like, oh, this, that, the other. And you're like, I'm sorry, I'm not satisfying. There's 30 people in the classroom here. And they don't share well sometimes. They want one. And even if you say to the children, what DVD do you want to watch? There'll be winners and losers, won't there? And whereas if you turn around and say, I still think we keep the locus controlled to a certain extent, because the more you relax around some children sometimes, the more that they lose that routine, they lose that structure. And that's, again, what we found during the likes of COVID. And that's one of the arguments against doing the fun lessons, is that we need to establish and keep the routines, because once you relax that, you have more instances of things like bullying. You have more instances of where kids have blurred lines. They answer you back or cheekier to you. And I often find myself not liking the end of term, not liking the week before Christmas. And it sounds horrible, because I find the children's behaviour alters. It's like the non-uniform day thing. I don't like when they just go, they blur the lines and they forget themselves. And I think the more sometimes you loosen the structures of school, then unfortunately the more some children just can't handle that. And you talk about neurodivergent children. How do you satisfy neurodivergent children when you change a routine all of a sudden for the last week of term? You got to be careful of that. Yeah. Because they thrive upon routine, and all of a sudden you're coming in, it's like, okay, the rules are out, we do what you want. I think there has to be, yes, fun lessons, if there is fun lessons, but still with a locus of some control, rather than just simply do what you want.
Okay, so what we'll do is we'll break to 1:30. Please call in, please tweet us. We've got our stuff up on Twitter today early. We've got lots of stuff on there. We're also going to cover, after the news, the stuff that's been going on with food parcels going home, because that's part of Christmas this year. So definitely for us, food bank collections, sending gifts home, sending essentials for certain pupils. But again, we'd like to know your Christmas stories in that last week, and I think we also need to cover the fact that loads of people have been off as well, actually ill this week as well. So right, we're going to break for the news, and we'll see you after the news.
This show is brought to you in partnership with John Catt Educational, a leading publisher of books, directories, educational guides and magazines specifically aimed at forward-thinking schools in the UK and beyond. Have you checked out their latest releases? Don't miss out! Visit johncattbookshop.com to explore their full range of titles and advance your own professional development today. Happy reading!
This episode of Teachers Talk Radio has been made possible with support from Witherslack Group, the UK's leading provider of SEN education and care. They're here to support you too through an ever-growing offer of free resources, including webinars, podcasts, articles, and events aimed at supporting teaching professionals like you. Visit their website at www.witherslackgroup.co.uk to find out more. This is Teachers Talk Radio, and this is Teachers Talk Radio News.
The long debate as to whether a Yorkshire pudding belongs on a Christmas dinner has often been a talking point on social media. This year, however, the debate has reached new heights after an 11-year-old schoolgirl was left unimpressed by the failure to include her favourite item on the school Christmas lunch. The Daily Mirror carries details after the pupil's letter to her head teacher was shared on social media. The 11-year-old pupil from a Lancashire primary school sent the strongly worded email after she noticed that none of the pupils were served Yorkshire puddings, but staff were. The email referred to the puddings as food of the gods and as golden delicacies, and described the actions of the school as cruel and callous. Puddings for all were demanded going forward. The head teacher took the complaint seriously, but in good humour, and even agreed to take part in a conciliatory dance-off to make up for it. The dance-off was conducted in front of the whole school, with only one clear winner, the 11-year-old. So for all those still debating whether Yorkshire puddings belong on a Christmas dinner, be prepared to hit the dance floor to settle the argument. Chester Zoo and the University of Chester have joined forces for a new course focusing on conservation and sustainability education. This course offers the first opportunity anywhere in the world for education professionals to gain a recognised qualification. The course will launch in 2023 and allow those studying to gain a postgraduate certificate. The course aims to provide educators with knowledge and skills needed to help learners maximise the impact they can have in carving a better future for the planet. Full details of the new course can be found on the University of Chester website. Whilst recruitment and retention of teachers and other professionals in the UK has been a frequent topic of discussion, Nigerian news outlet The Nation looks at the topic from another angle. The article focuses on what it describes as a mass exodus of licensed medical doctors and other health professionals to more developed countries, and now the fear is changes to UK immigration rules will have a further impact on the education sector. According to a recent announcement, from February the 1st, 2023, teachers from Nigeria and other countries who qualify will be able to apply to be teachers in the UK. Whilst this is a step in the right direction for recruitment in the UK, there are fears in Nigeria and other nations that this will lead to a further brain drain that can only have a negative impact on the youth of these other nations. Finally, with many schools already broken up for the Christmas break, it's left only to wish all school staff an enjoyable holiday, while sending solidarity to those who, according to a recent Teacher Tap survey, are pushing on into this week, particularly to the 7% of staff who don't break up until Friday, the 23rd of December. Keep going. This has been your Teachers Talk Radio News with Joe Fox.
This is 2 Minute Tech with Steve Woods, your tech briefing on Teachers Talk Radio.
Hello and welcome to the 50th episode of 2 Minute Tech. This week I want to make an appeal. I'd love to know about real classroom tech situations. I want to speak to teachers of all subjects about how they use tech. How do you engage your pupils using tech? Because I'm telling you now, other people will want to know what you're doing. So what are you waiting for? Get in touch at TT Radio 2022 and let us know what you want to tell us about tech.
2 Minute Tech with Steve Woods, your tech briefing on Teachers Talk Radio.
That was nice, wasn't it? We're getting more used to the controls, I think, now.
Yeah, we're getting used to the efficiency of using clips. You know,
I think next year it'll be like a like a Radio 1 breakfast show, isn't it?
Well, I like
Blackson.
there's a guy that presents on national radio late nights, and he's got all these absolute jingles and stuff every time. He's brilliant at it.
Yeah.
I do think we can up our game on
Yeah,
that.
I mean, it reminds me of the DJ in Wayne's World when he's constantly hitting kind of klaxons and buzzers and
Party
honkers
on,
and
excellent.
all sorts of things. We need kind of an array of sound effects.
Do you know, actually, bringing back a memory, I think I watched Wayne's World when I was at school. That was one of the movies. And if we talk about a vivid memory, I remember headbanging to the scene where him and Garth were doing Bohemian Rhapsody, because Bohemian Rhapsody got #1 that year. I think I would have been about 13. You see what I mean, how the memory works?
Yeah.
Isn't it amazing sometimes how your memory's triggered by likes of music, but equally that slack time at school, the AKA fun lessons. So it's, I'm contradicting myself a little bit there, because I'm against it, but at the same time there I have a memory of it. Yeah.
I remember walking past a classroom. So I can't remember the date of the film. We'll tell you the date of it, but the teacher in the room was playing Shaun of the Dead to the class, and he'd obviously again just at the front, kind of daydreaming to himself, and it dawned on me that the clip that he was about to go on to
the jukebox.
The guy Nick Frost was about to use a C word that wasn't Christmas, and I think I just about got in the classroom, and it dawned on him what was about to happen.
But therein lies another problem, doesn't it? Of what you sort of have to be very careful about the appropriateness. And I mean, and as I head a department, I have like my DVD collection, and at times it's like, okay, I'm doing the Holocaust. Can I do the pianist? No, it's a 15. Do I want the kids to see that? And that's why I like the likes of the boy in the striped pajamas for Key Stage 3. Problem is, it kind of, there's a movement against using that now, because it's sort of the sympathy goes towards the family of the Nazi boy, and there's an interesting part of that where you go, But that's the thing, is you have to choose wisely what you want to show the children, because as a professional, talk about professional standards. These children will go home and say, "What did you do at school today?" And you'd say, and you might have started out to do something quite nice, and go, "He showed us something, and there was a swear word in the middle of it." And you can imagine. Now, as a union representative, I can tell you that I have had situations where I've had to have a conversation with a member of staff going, "Did you look at what you were showing the children?" The children recommended it. And I'm like, no, come on. Or equally something musical where, and we can get caught out that way. We can get, because these kids can throw you under the bus. They really, and they know what they're doing. They're very suave. Suave.
Suave.
I don't know what word I'm looking for there. They're very sophisticated.
Somebody came out.
They're very sophisticated and clever and intelligent, and they know. So you have to be very careful. Again, YouTube is terrible for that. You've got to be very careful of likes of, and also copyright. You've got to be very careful of copyright as well. Make sure that you're. My advice is be professional. Make sure you look at copyright. Make sure that you cover yourself, and obviously, just be careful with what you show children. And I don't just mean that from a point of view of that you might get complained, but just be mindful of your responsibility as a teacher. That you've got to be careful. You just don't leave yourself wide open to criticism, because your kids have come in and you thought, you know what, I'm going to reward these kids. And I think it comes back to my point. Yes, do something fun if you want to do something fun, but make sure you're the one in control. Make sure you've got the lever on it, and make sure you know what you're showing the children. Just don't be sort of like trying to play, well done you guys, this is what you want. Yeah, you know what, you're a lovely class. Because it's about, you want to build a relationship with children sometimes. You do want to reward them. As you say, you have a class that have done really, really well. You want to say, look, guys, you've had a really good term. As a reward, let's do something fun like that. But just be mindful of that doing something fun is obviously still not going to get you into deep trouble, I mean,
there's something there also about rewards. Where do you stand on the box of chocks in the lesson, or the...
you want to give some children lots of sweets and sugar.
At what point, here's a question then, put it another way. At what point, what age does a certificate saying well done from the school?
No, any age.
When does it wear?
Any age.
I think primary school.
No, you give me a certificate telling me I've done very well. I mean, there's a reason why certain fast food chains have Employee of the Month and a certificate up there. I think all of us, innate in human being, you tell me If somebody comes up to me and gives me a certificate and says to you, "You've taught well this year.
Yeah.
You've done really well." I think we forget that. There's nothing better than sometimes. But here's the thing about rewards with me. I don't like rewards for the sake of rewards. It's got to be genuine and it's got to be earned. And I have done that before where I've turned around to a class and says, "Look, guys, if you can get all this work done, we'll do something fun." And they haven't done it, so they don't get the reward. I'm old school that way. I would absolutely, completely turn around to them and say, "Sorry, guys, the other class have earned it." I don't like this whole sort of false praise thing where you have to go, and it's not having a go at a whole society, but you go to America. I love America. I lived in America. But when they say, "Thank you, sir," and sorry, it's terrible American. That's my.
I wonder what that was.
I do it in New Jersey. "Thank you, sir."
Okay.
And I'm like, do you really say thank you, or do you actually mean it? And
Yeah.
I genuinely like praise that is fair and genuine. But when you are rewarding for the sake of rewarding, then you are making a rod for your own back there. Because then the kids will come in and say, "Oh, well, you got to be consistent." I equate it to parenting. I don't reward my children when they're naughty. Why would I reward them when they're naughty? I want to encourage positive outcomes. I want to encourage. So at the end of term, if children have worked hard and they've earned it, yeah, you can have something fun, but you better earn it.
Yeah, but if you, as we said before, though, if we go down the line of there is a well-being relationship benefit in that last week of doing those things, if that class doesn't perform, behave in the way that you expected, where does that leave you going into the new year?
It leaves me holding my line and saying, "I'm sorry, there's got to be a consequence."
But you're holding your line.
Oh, yeah.
Is everyone else holding their line?
I can.
But that's the thing. This is the cultural difficulty.
But this is where you end up with inconsistency.
Yeah.
And this is the problem sometimes with schools, that and can lead to awkward conversations with me, having awkward conversations with some of my colleagues who've started, I think, DVD week early. And that leads to a conversation with senior management, who then senior management turn around and say, "Look, guys," and I've had to do that. And I've had to do that where I'm well aware that a colleague was showing something a week way before everybody else. And you're like, whoa. Have you down tools? And then, of course, the kids were like, what they were doing was, it's the parenting thing. But mum said, you know yourself, when you're co-parenting, you've got to be on the same page.
Yeah.
Because if you're not on the same page, I mean, I used to run rings around. I should not listen to my mother. I used to run rings around my mum because mum would give in. But it's wait till your father comes home. "Oh, no, we're not asking him, not a chance." You don't want that.
No.
You don't want, because then what happens is you've got good cop teacher, bad cop teacher.
Yeah.
And that's just not fair. So you're going to have to, as a school, maybe, that's up to, I think, the senior management of the school to set that tone, to regulate that and actually say, "Look, guys, we don't mind you doing this fun stuff, but here's the dates that you do it. And please," again, the conversation about make sure it's appropriate. But here's the problem. Should you be having that conversation with a serious academic professional?
Okay. I think my point is that you're in charge of your own classroom. We've gone back to that kind of Gareth Southgate scenario. You're managing your team. Your class happens to be a certain makeup, a certain composition. You want to do something. You think, as a professional, that break, that time will have, rewards in the long run. So therefore, you go and do that as a teacher, even though it breaks ranks with the other staff.
As long as you, and here's the thing, as long as there's a rationale, as long as there's a logic applied to it, as long as you can justify it, it comes down to justification. It's the same as somebody saying to me, "Oh, why are you getting the kids to do some work over Christmas? Is it work or is it interesting? Something interesting. I have a justification. I have thought it through.
Yeah.
I have a reason for it. It seems the stuff. I go back to the teachers when I was in school who showed me stuff that was relevant, like David Attenborough in a geography class. Okay, it may be a little slack, but it's still relevant to the subject, as opposed to somebody who's turning around and just going, "Right, here's free time. Do what you want, kids." And I don't like that. I don't think that's fair. That's where I have a bit of an issue.
Yeah.
No problem with somebody doing something different. And I've seen some research here. Let me just read you this research, which I think is really important. And it's talking about welfare and well-being.
Yeah.
Schools using innovation to improve well-being. Sunday Times, schools are trying new approaches to keep pupils of all ages happy and healthy after the pandemic left them struggling socially and emotionally. Beth Collins, deputy head at Laurel's Primary School in West Sussex, said she found some young children had used to playing computer games and sitting in screens, and their fingers and thumbs would not stop twitching in class. I've noticed this, where I can actually, I've done a little thing with this, where I've walked around with my year 7s, and they think I'm some sort of master Jedi. And I said, hold out your hands. PlayStation, Xbox. And the kids think, wow, how are you able to do that? I can see how they hold their hands, where their thumbs go, to which gaming device. And of course they go, you play games? Of course I play games. I've been playing games 3 times longer than you've been alive. Seriously. I started playing games in the 80s. And they look at you weird, like, you're a human being, I play games. Yeah, I could probably beat you at FIFA right now if you really wanted. And they look at me and go, like, you play FIFA? Yeah, of course I play FIFA. I've been playing FIFA since 1993. Stop. I am a human being. I lived in your world too, was you. But I could see that with the kids. And you see that after half term. You see after half terms, kids come back at half asleep because they're going to bed at 4 or 5 in the morning. And they're out of routine. It's routine. But what this is also saying is, look, now she takes the pupils outside for an hour, runs around the playground, calm and improves their fitness. Parents and children were offered yoga training sessions, how to breathe, in a bid to reduce time on screens. Other primary schools, as Thomas Battersea, have gone a step further and introduced outdoor classes following the Scandinavian model of forest schools. So when somebody says to me, you want to do something fun today, is that the opportunity to do actually something like that? Okay, we're going to do something fun today. There's for me, something fun today would be to say, let's go play a game of football. Let's go do some sports. Let's go do some exercise. Let's go see. But are we guilty? And this is my thing. Are we guilty of being that parent who turns around, the same equivalent, the parent turns around saying, oh God, I'm knackered. It's the end of term. Oh, I'm a teacher. Oh, woe is me. And then goes, oh, just give the kids a DVD to watch. Are we guilty of that when we should be saying, hey, you know what? This is an opportunity to do something, experiment, have a bit of genuine educational fun, as opposed to, I've got to babysit you for the next week. And then it's all about mentality for me. Oh God.
Do we need a more rounded approach to well-being then? So rather than it being the end of term, end of year, Christmas fun, or whatever that fun means, is that the social and emotional things have more prominence in the timetable, in the curriculum. So therefore we're doing it more regularly. So therefore students aren't asking, because to me, when students are saying we want a fun lesson, what they're really saying is we're fed up of what we've
they don't want to learn.
What we've been doing. So we need a break. They're saying we need a break. And actually, if we're just doing it, so I broke up on last full day was Wednesday. And we had, what I'm talking about. No, it wasn't. Last full day was Thursday. Friday, half a day.
Hold on. You finished last Thursday. When do you go back?
Friday. We go back on the Tuesday, so that the 2nd.
So you're which is fair enough. I'm back a week later.
I'm not gaining.
No, that's important.
But it's just a bizarre situation. I don't really know why Derby is so out of sync with the rest of the country.
But this is the hard thing with different parts of the country out of sync with each other.
But my point is this pressure on fun at Christmas more to do with actually students saying we are not getting something from this system? It's just all about exam practice, grades, targets, production, output.
Fair point.
And what we actually want is, that's reasonable and that's fine. We get that, but we want more time. You think about school.
Kids like variety. What you're saying is kids like variety.
That's right. And you think some schools now, for lots of reasons, have got their lunchtime down to about 20 minutes, just to kind of.
But you know why they're doing that?
Grab bag.
Because there's too many incidents and issues. It creates more social problems because they've got no midday supervisors. I know that.
No, I'm not. I don't want to kind of
but
dive
that means
into
what?
the.
But that means they're not doing what? They're not burning off energy. They're not playing football. They're not having social time. They're not talking to each other. They're not having those soft skills times that they need.
Yeah, but I remember part of my memory of school was those kind of epic football matches in the school pens. Do you know what I mean? They had like 150 kids, almost like a Shrove Tuesday.
And I'm about to praise him here because I do think a lot of the guys.
Here we go.
He actually referees.
That could have been a drum roll.
He referees the year 10s versus the year 9s.
Yeah.
And I go out sometimes to be his lino, just because what happens there is you get all the boys and they run around like absolutely headless chickens. And it's a bit of fun, a bit of sport. And actually, I'm wrong, because some of the girls and I would be involved in the game, and they can play football. We're going to particular, absolutely brilliant. So he takes the year 9s and year 10s out, and they have a big football match. Now, what is that? They're burning off energy. They're having fun. It's a bit of competition.
Yeah.
And what are they not doing? They're not sitting in the corridors, not up to no good. They're actually enjoying. And then they come in after that happier, because what? The endorphins have kicked in. There's got to be a lot of mental health in that. The endorphins have kicked in, the socialization, the sense of community, the sense of identity. I know some schools have pioneered that, where they do music lessons during lunchtimes. But here's the problem with this, and this is where...
But that's just more lessons, isn't it?
But here's the take on it. Some staff, again, it goes back to the same issue. What you put in, what you get back out. Some staff, and I'm not criticising them, will sit in the staff room and they'll chew the fat over and they'll have their lunch and say, that's it, I'm sacrosanct, my lunch is my lunch. Some will sit in their rooms. Some will do marketing. So I look at my colleagues. Some will use the lunch time to catch up on work so they go home on time. Some will use that to catch up with their friends and socialise and talk to each other. And they'll sit at the same place at the table and make each other a cup of tea. And that's brilliant. I tend to do both. I will walk around school. I will sit in the dining hall. I'll sit down with some of the kids and I will build a relationship with them. And I'll go out and help my head teacher. I like to float around the school, have a little chat with some of the kids, see them in their natural environment, but still go in and have 10, 15 minutes with my colleagues.
Because you need that as well, don't you?
But equally...
But you need the thing that you've just been talking about.
I've noticed...
You need to burn off that energy. Do you mean that?
I end up... Yeah. And I end up sometimes... the boys will kick the football to me, and I'll end up joining in. I do. And, they know I can cross the ball.
So why is my son break his leg? Well,
No, they know better than that. They know they give me a wide berth. But at the same time, they'll pass the ball over and I'll lob a crossover. And here I am. I feel good about myself. And they'll come and go like, great cross there. Nothing better when I plant one off from a corner and one of the kids knocks up and heads it in. But then that sounds like a scene out of Kess, doesn't it?
Well, there's so many films. I was thinking of the Meaning of Life, where they go to the public school, and John Cleese and the team are watching the boys play rugby. They're all getting involved and they trip the kids up and
Bobby Charlton today. I'm Bobby Charlton. But again, I look at some of my favourite moments of school. I had a PE teacher like that. Used to play football with us after school. Yeah. And I think, and again, those memories were quite vivid. And I loved that guy. I got on with that guy. He's my PE teacher, but actually he was a sportsman as well. And he used to play football with us after school. Yeah. And he was filthy like him. If you ran past him, I was quite quick when I was younger. And if you ran past him, the leg got stuck out. You get up, and it was fun. It was good. Think of the mental health benefits of that. He's dealing with kids who are growing up in poverty in the middle of the Troubles. I think we needed that. And again, I think we've lost a lot of this during the likes of COVID. So what I would suggest is that we do find the educational value in doing things differently rather than just simply stick something on that they could watch over time. And here's an interesting story that backs me up. Video games may increase the risk of obsessive compulsive disorder in children. A study has suggested. Researchers in the US asked more than 9,000 children aged between 9 and 10 years old how much they spent playing video games and watching videos. 2 years later, they checked to see if they'd gone on to develop OCD. Playing video games increased the risk of OCD by 13% for every average hour spent a day. That's mental. A separate study suggests that handling a pre-COVID age child a screen as a quick fix could lead to severe challenging behaviour. Tell me we don't see this. The lack of socialization skills, the lack of be able to answer a question. Some children have retreated into themselves because they spend a year and a half in their bedrooms and happy to do so. Yeah. And I've noticed this a lot with some of the children now. Put your hand up. They don't. And cold calling. I ask some children cold calling. They just don't respond. And it's interesting. We're encouraged now to do cold calling. Some kids just can't do it because they don't have the same interaction. I sat with one of the reasons I'm able to do this show is because I sat at the dinner table with my parents and we argued about everything. The 6 o'clock news is on in the background. And that brings me to, some of the education value of the fact of the matter was I was educated at home in the dinner table, in life, politics, the world, and everything.
Keep going.
Because we got the interactions, and it comes down to that interactions with the children. Now, we are just showing them stuff and saying, there you are, you're behaved. And again, it comes back to giving the child your screen, or giving the child a laptop, giving the child the iPad. Brilliant, fantastic. That keeps them sedate, keeps them... Are we almost comatosing our children? Are we almost just basically saying, here's the piece of technology? Why? And I love technology. I think it's important. But do we run the risk of just saying, here's school, and school's just like what we do at home.
Yeah. However, it's that kind of middle class bubble thing sometimes, isn't it? Some parents just can't have that. They're either not educated themselves. They can't do the things that you're advocating.
It's the cultural capital.
They can't cultural capital. They are bouncing between shifts in a gig economy.
Yeah.
That they can't. They then are at home for an hour to get changed before a night shift, before a early morning shift, and all that business. And then there's no criticism here. Parents are doing their best in very, very challenging situations sometimes. And it'd be great. A teacher sets an independent task. Has the child got a laptop? Have they got the resources?
Again, we found that out, didn't we? The digital divide between some children and the assumption that, and I noticed that, we were saying, oh, you've got your homework, and they were doing the homework on their phone, not a laptop, because there was one laptop at home, and that one laptop at home was for the parent who was working from home.
Right, yeah.
So I think we found out a lot more about what's going on in society. I think schools have found a lot more, and we're trying to bridge the gap.
Yeah.
But these figures on the children gaming and stuff, and do not get me wrong, I love my gaming myself, and I think there's a lot of education in it. But again, it comes back to my mantra there of who's in control there, who's got the locus of control. If the children are completely unregulated, gaming when they want, gaming all hours, again, some parents are fighting the good fight, and God bless them. They remove. I did a cold survey the other day. I knew I was going to talk about this, and I turned around to a year 7 class and says, hands up whose parents have confiscated their DS, their Switches, their controllers for their games, or their laptop, or their phone. And every single child had put their hand up. At some stage, a device was removed, a controller was removed, or something they had basically overdone, which means that parents are fighting in a good fight, don't get me wrong, but we're up against what kids consider to be fun. It's so easy now. You think about that we watch to a treat. We used to watch a movie as a treat. They're so overloaded now, and they're so rewarded that us putting something on that they could watch at home on Netflix, to me, that's not the reward it used to be. Yeah. Because that when I was in school, that was a reward. You didn't watch. You watched the latest movie, and your teacher might, oh wow, you've got that. Now it'd be like, oh, I've got on Netflix, got that. The reward, I think, now has to be something that you can offer those children that can't be offered at home.
So what is that? I mean,
that's your forest school. That's your. I mean, I used to, when I coordinated citizenship in PHSC, I used to use the last week of term to do a whole school kind of like financial capability, democracy, rights. So it used to be those themes within citizenship, and I'd have a whole day of voting and a whole day of. Or another one was, we did this once at the end of term. We had the children for 2 days cleaning the school, cleaning the windows, painting. So I spent a half a day painting my classroom with the children.
Also investing in their own space.
You tell me. And you tell me that one. And it was a brilliant. And I had kids working through their lunchtime with me, painting the walls in my classroom. And that's my classroom, their classroom, our shared space. And it took a bit of an investment. One member staff, fantastic member staff, organised it. But we had the kids cleaning the school, picking litter in the school. It's me back to the planting of trees. Education can be done in so many ways, and life skills can be handled in so many ways. But does it have to be, can we do a fun lesson? And we've gone around the houses a little bit. And I think what I'm saying is that we're too quick. Maybe some of us are too quick to go, here's the fun. The fun lesson is something the kids think is fun. But maybe the instinct for us as teachers should be to find ways to get education and learning in, not in a traditional way, but use that opportunity to get some learning in there or something different. Otherwise, you demean, I think, us as a school or us as an education facility, because then people are saying, well, what are you sending to school for? Well, I'm sending to school for today. You can imagine the conversation with a parent. You send them to school today. Why am I sending you to school today? What? So you could sit in the classroom and watch something you could watch at home. Yeah.
And better quality, because they've got better kit at home probably to watch it with. Yeah, I mean it's really interesting this, and so maybe we're not saying fun, are we? We are saying different variety, difference, and I do think maybe we should be considering, maybe the timetable needs, like there is a directive, maybe it needs a policy change. That there's a directive for physical education. Yeah. There's a directive for PHSRE. Yeah. There's a number of lessons have to be taught, etc. Maybe there does need to be actual well-being,
a coordination of this is what we're pilot. We would like you to make the most of this last, your last half a week of term.
But I'm not saying that. I'm saying more within the week. more within
Yeah.
the 2-week timetable, more within the 1-week timetable, more within their normal structure of lessons. There is something that is a core focus on difference, local environments, getting in touch, doing something that's more whole school, that's properly.
Have you seen Nativity?
Yes.
Do you know what year it is? I think it's 2004, 2005.
What, the actual film,
Yeah.
when it came out?
Now, when I started in education all those years ago, we used to do pantomimes. I
Mm.
stayed behind after school to do pantomimes.
Yeah.
More school trips. I actually look over the years at the things that I used to do. And even my wife has remarked on this and says we used to do a lot more fun stuff at school. Like cast members of staff members who were pantomime members. I
Yeah.
mean, 3 performances with the whole school concerts. And I think actually because of the workload and because of the way teaching's developed, that, not saying quietly quitting, I find myself not saying not enjoying it, but I used to be more involved in things like that because there were more opportunities to be involved in things like that. And it's hard to know whether it's just, is it age, is it change of the school I'm in? But I would say nationally we talk about drama, you talk about that. You talk about the value of a whole school nativity play. I remember my nativity play and the part that I played, I was Joseph in the nativity play. Now I can remember that. And I can remember the thing about, my wife went to see my 2 children at their nativity play, and the look on my daughter's face as she was the innkeeper's wife. I mean, that was a really good one. Of like, and I think that's the quality of education there, isn't it? The plays, the drama, the nativities, the concerts, and I think we have got so much more. But here's the problem: all that type of art stuff, all that type of soft stuff has been squeezed out by a narrow curriculum. And we were having that conversation about your children. They love drama, don't they?
Yeah, so both my daughters they've always gone to like a drama group. That's their thing. Actually, it's wider what they do. It's the whole media experience through kind of sound and recording and that type of thing. Eldest daughter has just gone to secondary school, and I kind of asked her quickly kind of what is your favourite lessons and what's your worst lessons. And I was expecting, if you flip that, I was such a keen kind of football and sports person. My favourite lesson, therefore, was PE at school because it was more of the thing that I enjoyed.
Art.
However,
loved art.
I asked her, "What's your favourite lesson?" Maths. What's your least favourite lesson? Drama. And I thought that's such a shame because, all day Saturday, that is her focus. And she's now they're now just in their kind of room editing films, editing their own little kind of little things they're doing, stop motion things, etc. So they're really into it. They both really
That's
into
intrinsic.
it. However, when they hit it at school, they can't stand it, which is bizarre, isn't it? So something's happening there. So when I asked her kind of, so what is drama? Sorry, at your school, and she's kind of, it's less of the practice, and more of the theory. So he's gone down the route of theory. Now I don't know. Again,
where's the stroke fun in that?
Where's the fun? Yeah. So let's think. I haven't. As a teacher and a parent, you got to be careful here. Keep running to the school and going and almost like being like a mini Ofsted.
But what you're doing there is you're bypassing that. You're literally. Your children are being getting that cultural capital because of who you are and who your wife is.
However,
they're not getting it at school.
But selfishly, me and my wife are thinking we only need to do the extracurricular stuff until they got to secondary school, and then they'll be doing it in secondary school. But what it appears is that that's not going to happen.
No.
They've got to carry on. So again, let's play devil's advocates for a minute. Let's think. I think she said it was a non-specialist teaching it, so therefore the school's determined to kind of do it, keep it in there. They haven't got the staff to run it, so therefore you've got a non-specialist. If it's a non-specialist, it's low down on their planning, drive that week.
Yeah.
So therefore they probably downloaded something, found something, been passed something, just to tick that box.
Some of the most funnest things and my fondest memories in teaching are trips. Taking kids away, taking them on foreign trips. Again, that's been difficult in the last couple of years. Residentials, local residentials, but pantomimes. I've still got photographs of me playing characters in a pantomime, full blown. There's nothing better than custard pieing your head of languages in the face. of script. We had a custard pie. I mean, we had a custard pie fight in the middle of it. The kids are laughing at you, and tell you what that does. Humanizes. Now, again, I've still got some of this because this week we did a couple of things, and we're going to do a bit of a quick pantomime, but the script's going to be there. We don't have the time to invest in it, but we're going to perform in front of the children in the last day, because our last day is a relaxed day. The Christmas jumpers go on. We have 2 active worships, which are assemblies, which have got the religious tone, obviously being a faith-based school. But at the same time, we've done a song. We've done every staff member and support staff members chipped into the Do They Know It's Christmas?
Yeah.
And the music guy is absolutely brilliant. He's recorded that.
And you're Boy George?
No. Take a guess as to what if I was going to do.
Well, I don't have any racial stereotypes on.
No. Who would I? Come on. What part would I have to play? Who's the loudest in it?
Go on then. You've been waiting to do it.
Shall I do it?
Yes, let's do it.
Shall I do it?
Listeners, maybe just have, you listen on headphones, maybe take one out, lower the volume a little bit.
It did have to be lowered.
He's cranking up.
Ready?
Ready? Here we go.
Well, tonight, thank God it's them instead of you. There we go.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's big. It's big.
Well, I had to do the Bono. I mean, come on. It had to be. But the brilliant thing is, he played that. The music teacher played that to his music class as he edited and showed and made a big thing out of it. So he edited it out. And the kids going, well, like, well done, sir. You belted that word. And I'm like, oh, you've heard it.
Yeah.
And again, you talk about the humanization of it, you talk about the fun element of it. It was fun to do. I went up there and he turned the microphone down twice. It was just fun to do. And you talk about that, but then there's some of the legacy there. We do that every year. We'll do a little song, we'll do a little video. That's where you get the fun in, and that's where the kids seeing you have a little bit of fun. Mm. And that was good for them, because they see that we're human beings. We see that we can have a laugh as well, and that helps build the relationship. But how long did that take me? That took me 5 minutes to go up and there's a new line and basically sing a line, and then the music teacher went and produced that, and that we'll do that at the last day of term. Cool. Yeah. And that's a little bit of fun, but it's not before then. And that's the thing, you invest the time into doing things like that, the after school sessions, the wrap round sessions, and the nativity plays. And I think we are in danger of losing some of that. And especially, I think primary do it a lot better than secondary school. And I know that we're having 2 children at primary school, and I think it's important that primary school does a little bit more, because we're both secondary school teachers, and I'm sure some primary people that might be listening might be thinking, well, we do, we know what we're doing. But then you have those children you have them quite intensely, whereas I see children once a week, twice a week, whereas primary, you have more scope to obviously really go and get to know those children, and you have that more time, don't you? Whereas, when you only see them once or twice a week, it's more difficult. But I have a tutor group that I do see more often, so that's when I take the stops out. They're the children I give the chocolate to. They're the children I give the rewards to. So what they've done this year is I've asked them to do a reverse advent calendar, and I've asked them to do something for other people. And I've asked them, do they want to do Secret Santa? We do Secret Santa. Do you do Secret Santa?
We haven't this year, because we decided to give the focus on this hospice in Coventry.
Brilliant.
So that's been the whole focus of any kind of donation, gift, card. The request has been, rather than buy that, we give to that. But there is polling on this, isn't there?
There is polling. Kind of helps. This is an interesting one. Parents in the red wall seats want more focus on extracurricular activities. So the red wall seats are those seats that turn from Labour to Conservative into more traditional, deindustrialised, more the North and the Midlands areas. Yeah. A report by Public First, written in conjunction with Unison and the National Association of Head Teacher, has found that parents in key red wall seats want the government to focus on education and funding on extracurricular pursuits, such as not just the academic subjects. Research showed that parents in areas of Bolton, Wolverhampton and Reading care about the many things that go unsaid in the day-to-day debate on education policy. And thank you. That's exactly pretty much what we're talking about. Mm-hmm. The survey found that 2/3 of more than 1,000 primary school parents said they thought the government should prioritise teaching life skills and problem solving, while 1/4 of them thought there should be greater funding on improving extracurricular activities. The report found that parents were concerned that there had been a narrowing of the curriculum recently, with extracurricular subjects squeezed out, which is what we're talking about, the drama, the arts, and activities such as drama and music becoming box-ticking exercise.
Yeah, I think it's right.
And that's come from the parents, and that should filter through that what do we value, and that's one of our previous conversations. What do we value in education? we value in education the opportunities to broaden the horizons, to enrich children, to give them a cultural capital, to and that's got to be for me. Going back to my point, it's got to be more than for me. What are we doing today? Just fun lesson here. What do you want to watch? Stick that on.
Yeah.
It's got to be. We've got to work harder on that. I think there's an obligation in us to not say raise our game, but to use the opportunity. And it doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be all singing, all dancing. It's just making sure that what we are doing is giving that variety to the children.
It's the options.
Taking the opportunity.
Yeah.
Taking that time and that opportunity to get some educational or something in there that will benefit them. But I'll also say, tell me it wasn't fun for me doing that music song. Tell me it isn't fun to be involved in the panto. Tell me that I don't enjoy, putting myself out there and humiliating myself, or having a game of football with the kids at lunchtime. Our job has so many opportunities to have fun, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And I think if we lose sight of that, when they come in and say, that's why I get very upset when they go, can we do something fun today? I work really hard. I work really hard in my lessons. I work really hard all year long to try and make my lessons as innovative and interesting, to choose the right curriculum content. So it is sometimes a bit personal when the kids come in and go, sir, can we do something fun today? And what they really mean is, could we stick something on and go to sleep? And I'm like, well, no.
You don't want to do anything.
No, come on.
But is that a kind of a genuine plea for, we are just kind of fed up? We're just not with you, not with the individuals involved, but we're just fed up of this constant merry-go-round of, new knowledge testing. Do you know what I mean? But are we constantly?
True.
But we have to, we talked about this on our previous podcast. We have data points, don't we? So we need to do these things to hit these certain data points.
I ask children a question, and I ask staff the same question. I ask my colleagues this question, and that's how I get sometimes. I'm not the most popular person because I know the answer. If they had a choice to come to school, and they had a choice to come in today, would they come in? Would they choose to come in, or are they coming in because they have to come in? And I ask the same thing of my colleagues. Would you choose this job? Would you choose? I know Tom's going to do a really good thing about advice for what would you tell your younger self as a teacher?
Yeah.
Would I want to be a teacher again? Would I repeat my 18 years in a heartbeat? I would. I love my job. There's things I would do differently. I might go to a different school for a couple of years and come to the school I love now. And I love my school now. But I love my school now because I throw myself into it, because I take the opportunities. And I'm not ashamed. I'm not. I don't care what other people think of me. I never have. I never will. I'm a teacher. That's my job. That's what I want to do. And I take the opportunity, even at the last week of term, to see the educational value in it as well. I know that's not going to make me popular with 47% of people who think that 52% of people think you should do fun lessons. But I think we've teased out what we think fun lessons are. And what fun lesson for me, it's not to say I'm not a fun person. I would change what we say as a fun lesson to match some educational value or some learning exercise or something that the children can gain from it. Because it comes back to this: if they had a free choice, an intrinsic choice to come into school, would they come into school? Or would they choose to sit at home and play their computer games? And if that's their choice, I worry about the future generation, because kids should want to come to learn. They should want to come into school. And also, staff should want to come into school. When people try and say, oh gosh, the holidays, I can't wait to the holidays. You think, okay, can they not wait to the holidays because they hate what their job is? Or can they not wait to the holidays because they're exhausted? And have to tease out those two groups of individuals. Or is it just what people say to each other? Oh gosh, can't wait to the holidays. But if you're saying that around children, what impression are you giving? Can't wait to get out of here. I can't wait to get out of here because here's so bad. I don't like that. I really don't. And again, that's why I'm in the profession as long as I've been in. You don't last within our profession unless you embrace it. I think you cannot be a half in, half out, because otherwise you get found out. I think, and the kids will find you out as well. So the fun lesson for me has to be something that is valued in educational value in it.
So we have to just read a few tweets before we move on to another topic. So we had a couple of ones. St. John Berklet, single B, I think it said, fun lessons all year round, surely.
Agreed.
With a bit of creativity from Carl Smith, we can do Blazer Carl. Well done, thank you for your
thank you, Carl.
Another one from Jenny Griffiths. That's my usual response when I get a request from my kids. My lessons are always fun. I feign insults when they infer that I'm boring rest of the time. I think that's what you were saying.
I think Jenny and I are on the same page.
Saying earlier. Yeah. But one of the things that has really brought home the current crisis that we're in with the cost of living is that this week I'm sure lots of schools have done as part of their last week of term, or if you're still at school next week, you might be doing this kind of as you. We've always done the food bank with the last couple of years, but there has been some amazing work done in schools and from the pupils as well, to send parcels to the most vulnerable this Christmas, because in the essence, this is what Christmas is really all about, isn't it? About looking after each other. But a couple of tweets about kind of what's been going on in the classroom. We've got one here from S Streeter Maths, who's been able to send over 80 food parcels out this year with food, toiletries, Christmas treats. And they thank their wonderful and generous staff, and many staff, and it definitely happened at my school on Friday, that staff were putting them in their boots and helping deliver them as well. So I know that's I went out with a group yesterday afternoon, and as a collective, it was our kind of lads kind of Christmas get together. And one of them was a teacher, and he explained that one house of students just needed some carpet, and it just happened that another lad was moving house. So he said, "Well, I've got some spare carpet." So amongst us, we think we've kind of.
But isn't that the Christmas spirit?
Exactly. So we managed to sort this out. I think the best one though was from a Miss teacher. So thank you very much for the card that you put on Twitter, and we'll retweet it. But it's absolutely amazing. I think Brent commented on it last night, and I was absolutely blown away. Kind of late last night when I saw it. The card that has been sent out. So this year, the year 2 children have. We've managed to trigger our Alexa here in the house, which is kind of
the backing music.
The backing music. Yeah. So this. If we're under any copyright infringement here, this has got nothing to do with us. This has just happened. We'll try and sort it out. I'll text one of my kids in a minute to try and turn it off. It's going to it's really. I was building up to a very heartwarming thing here, but it is amazing. It says this year 2 had the choice: either get a small Christmas gift from Mrs. MM or give the money to charity. Year 2 are extremely thoughtful and selfless, and decided to forgo their Christmas gift in order to donate to charity. The children chose to donate £50 to a local charity, the young ones who support disadvantaged local children.
Cool.
So, I mean, I know this is going on. And well done to Miss MM and her students. That's absolutely fantastic. But it has been happening all around the country. I'm aware of that.
So this is one from Grimsby. This is a fantastic example. So a school in Grimsby has handed out 1,300 onesies to people to help keep them warm as the families struggle with rising energy bills. So Oasis Academy Primary in Grimsby, they were given garments by the school charity. And the organiser said that warm clothing was thought up in the summer amid the media reports of a looming increase in fuel bills. We know it can impact the child's education when they come into school cold from not being able to sleep, being hungry, those kind of things. And the teacher involved said that the money came from external funding via the charity, not from the school's budget. Now, isn't that an absolutely fantastic example, again, of community, of connection, of Christmas, and how education facilities can help, and how we can sort of tap into our community. What we're also seeing is other examples as well about the sad reality of 100,000 children not in school at the moment. And again, how do we get them back into school? How do we get those kids, to come into school so we can help them? So that's something we really, really need to think about. Is this? I think we call them ghost children, and again, you can only help people if they're there, but we can't help some children if they're not there. And that's coming to things like, some children are being exploited during the cost of living crisis. A really horrible report about the number of car thefts from the number of children of school age has increased. And you start to see things like that filtering through as the cost of living crisis starts to show social problems, that those social problems are leading to other problems as well. And that's where you're seeing donations giving people's free lunches. We're seeing the school, there was a school, a primary school, that was reported on the BBC in Bradford, about the fact that they weren't able to put hot lunches on because of the budget cuts. They got £50,000 worth in donations from members of the general public. And there's things like that, those little heartwarming things that turn around, and that's when you realise the power of education, the power of schools, and the unsung heroes, the teacher who does the small little thing without realising the small charity of books. And one of my colleagues organised a brilliant thing. He's such a literacy bug. He organised the staff to buy a good book for some children that we know would not have the opportunity to access a good book. So instead of some of the Secret Santa stuff, they put money into buying a book. I know that I sometimes I gift the odd book to a child who I know is disadvantaged. I did that recently for a child who wants to study at A level, government and politics. So I give them a copy of Machiavelli's The Prince. Now they turn out to be some politician in the end, or may have set them on a task, but we all do that. That we teachers, we all used to be that your kids would bring gifts into you, and you'd be like you'd walk out with a bottle of wine, you'd walk out with a Christmas card, you'd walk out, and sometimes you still get that. Maybe again more in primary than you do secondary. But I used to have a big bag full of stuff back when I started teaching, of things from the kids, gratitude. But I started to switch the other way around, and I've noticed that, and I don't mind it, because for me, the gratitude, we're in a selfless job, we're in an altruistic job. We don't do stuff so we get rewarded, don't we? We don't do stuff because we want the kids to bring us a present and say thanks. I think sometimes just thanks is enough, but we are helping out a lot more, and I've noticed that from a lot of my colleagues, just doing little things like that, little commando help, I call it. They're doing it, but they're doing it in secret. They're doing it, but they're not advertising it. And those unsung heroes of teaching are the people that do the small little things, like they have a fruit bowl out, and they know some children don't get fruit. And they'll say, "Here, have some fruit." We all know our kids, and we all do generous things. And I think that's really important to acknowledge, that we have a profession that is selfless, altruistic, and it's amazing to see the kindness and the generosity of because we're givers. That's what we do as educationalists. And again, it's quite heartwarming to see the different schools do different things towards charity, and especially when you see the kids do that as well. We've done the reverse advent calendar. And it's been brilliant to see some children who themselves don't come from extremely wealthy backgrounds, but they bring stuff in. And that's always quite heartwarming when you see people who can identify and empathize. That's an empathy skill. I didn't come from a very wealthy background, but one of the things my parents always made sure that we give money to charity. We always helped other people. And that's what we want in society. We want young people to be helpful. We want young people to be amazing, and quite a heartbreaking thing this week, actually. I'm not ashamed to admit I nearly cried in front of the children when I read something out, and it was the young boy. I'd like to say that obviously pay tribute to that young boy who tried to rescue the other three children. And I will be honest that I got emotionally angry and emotional this week on two occasions. One occasion when I read out about that young boy he was a 10-year-old boy who were strangers, and he went over to try and save them. And an amazing story. And I was saying to my young people, I think the majority of my young people would have done exactly the same, because I think they're amazing. I think they would do exactly the same in a heartbeat. But then I got really, really angry when on social media, on the lake, the lake not far where I used to teach, we saw some of our children trying to walk across that frozen lake. And I can't tell you irrational anger that I had of actually wanting to find those children and literally going, "What are you doing? Oh, seriously?" So, of course, what we did was we had a whole PHSE session where we jury-rigged a PHSE session to talk about danger of ice on the lakes. Yeah. But that's what we do. We adapt. And straight away, we saw an issue there that we needed to talk to our children about for their health and safety, for their well-being, because we care. That's what it comes down to. I was angry because I cared, and I was angry because, God forbid, absolutely, should that happen in your own community? My heart goes out to that community in Birmingham. And I pay tribute to that community in Birmingham. They're going to need all the help they get. But that's, as a teacher, one of the hardest things is when you lose some children. I know I'm getting emotional about it, but I've lost some children down the years. And they leave that mark on you because we care. That's what we do. We look after people. We look after the children. We look after the families. And, but we need to be looked after as well. We need to look after each other. And I know, I'm sorry if some people thought I was a bit judgy earlier on about, the fun lesson stuff, and maybe it's up to individual people what they do, but I just want them to make sure that what they do is look after each other, look after the children, and do what they need to do to get over that line. Absolutely. But just be mindful of our job as educational professionals. Never lose sight that we're educational professionals, and what we're there to do is to leave that legacy the same as the legacy was left to me by some of my teachers. And I know which positive legacy I remember and which others I don't. So, how do you want to be remembered is what I would say.
Yeah. What are you both most looking forward to for 2023 then? What's the kind of positive to take into 2023?
I think kind of, again, returning to normality. I want to return to normality, to pre-pandemic situation, and I want the funding and the school and everything to return to that, because I want to go back to what we had in education. I think we lost some things along the way that we need to reclaim.
Is there some hope there with this new education secretary? Do you think?
Possibly.
Yeah. Do we think have an open mind going into the new year?
I tell you my hope. My hope is now I'm seeing like that news report. I think a lot of parents out there are rooting for us. And I think I know we're going to have industrial action. And I do worry like the media might turn on our profession and play to the lazy stereotype. And I think that's really unfortunate when you see all those stories about what we do and the unwritten things we do, the things that cannot be quantified. And it comes down to like legs of Ofsted. They can go where the sun don't shine for me. I really have no time for that. I have time for the fact that people go above and beyond in our profession, and they bleed when these children bleed. And I think they hurt when these children hurt. And that's the thing about we are in a noble, selfless profession that needs to be sometimes commended for what we've done. And I think, unfortunately, with what's going to happen with industrial action, I think we're going to have to defend our profession. We're going to have to defend ourselves, because I do feel that we are going to be attacked. If industrial action happens, there will be a narrative. You get 13 weeks holidays. You have it easy. And I don't think that's fair. I think we as a profession have stepped up. We've done our job. We continue to do our job in difficult circumstances. So I'm praising all of you listening who are teachers. I think you're amazing. I think the young people who teach are amazing. I think it's a privilege to work in education. I think it is more than the most amazing job in the world. However, we are life changers, and I never lose sight of the fact that we are life changers. We have a lot of power in our hands to change the outcomes of some children for positive. So, and I know the vast majority of my colleagues exercise that in exactly the way it needs to be.
Cool. So, thank you very much for listening today. There's still time for last minute Christmas presents from our sponsors and people who support the show. So, I picked up on one of the books the other day about the making PE a different experience. So I know there's some great resources on the sponsors website. But we've got today's sponsors, Brent.
Before I do that, I want to read this one.
Well, yeah.
GCHQ's UK Intelligence, Security and Cyber Agency is running its 2022 Christmas Challenge on 14th December. This is pretty cool. Yeah. So GCHQ, digital resource pack with everything you need. So if you're looking for something different, STEM, puzzles, inspiring interest, a mix of problems. So that's the kind of thing you need a lot more of. There's an organisation out there who's obviously saying, look, we need people with puzzles. There's the next Alan Turing.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a show, and we'll do this maybe in the new year, about how the private sector can help in, or how outside agencies maybe can support education much more to contextualise and provide resources, because sometimes we don't know, do we?
No.
We're sat on the outside thinking that we're doing the right thing, providing the right resources, and then you sit in a pub or restaurant somewhere with somebody, and they straight away go, "What are you teaching kids?" When I get them, they never seem to know anything. They're like, "Well, what do you want us to do?" And maybe come in and do. But there's loads of, as I just said, there's loads of resources on John Catt Education. Educational website. If you're at johncattbookshop.com, if you do want to kind of swat up and you want to do some light reading over the Christmas period.
Yeah, and they are one of our key sponsors. Brilliant resources. I've been looking through their catalogue, and there's a couple of things over Christmas, because that's one of the things that people do over Christmas. Sometimes they pick up that book that they normally don't have time to do. My old head teacher used to say that used to be his thing. He used to say, get time for yourself, unwind, read that book that's your bedside table, and it may be something from John Catt. They are leading publisher of books, directories, and educational guides, magazines specifically aimed at forward-thinking schools in the UK and beyond. So please check out the latest releases at johncattbookshop.com. and some fantastic titles there for leisure, pleasure, and for CPD. And also, we are still sponsored by Witherslack for the moment, and they're a group of educational specialists and care. They need more people like you to achieve even more, and the resources are fantastic as well. They give you a clear path and career progression, and rewarded with some best salaries and benefits the industry has to offer. Witherslack is currently offering some fantastic opportunities, so please check them out at www.witherslackgroup.co.uk/careers. I'd also like to say thank you to all my colleagues at Teacher Talk Radio, to any of the teachers who are out there. I think you're amazing, and we've still got some shows coming up just in the last week of term. I know that there was also some brilliant shows to listen back as well. I know Nathan did a really good show about the pastoral, which we touched upon today, about how to look after children during the holiday period. So that's worth a listen back. I know Tom's got a show coming up as well, and we've got another show this afternoon from Mr. Starkey, which will be fantastic. So please, you can catch us on Podbean or wherever you get your podcasts.
Yeah, there's loads of places where you can grab it. Spotify as well is a good place to kind of people got kind of playlist, and you got things kind of loaded up, ready to listen back to. Merry Christmas, Brent.
Merry Christmas, and before we go, we'll see you in the new year at the first. I think it's the 8th or 9th. Is it first Sunday?
First Sunday back. Yeah, first Sunday in the new year, and but we'll be keep an eye on Twitter. I'm at I've forgotten.
Adam Spence 81.
Adam Spence 81.
Brent Poland 1. There can be. I'm Highlander. There can be only one.
Okay. And I think for the last time today, then.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Is this not
Okay. Thank you very much, and have a happy Christmas and a great new year. Bye for now.
Bye.
You've been listening to Teachers Talk Radio. Tune in live and listen back at ttradio.org. We look forward to hearing from you next time on Teachers Talk Radio.